What's going on, guys? Cleebus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy A12. I'm going to be giving you everything you need to know about this phone to decide if it's the right one for you. So let's get started. Now, before we get into the phone itself, let's take a look at what comes in the box. So in here, we got a quick start guide. There's a SIM card removal tool right here, a pair of 3.5mm headphones, a USB-C cable, and a wall adapter. Now keep in mind, the specific phone in this video is the international model, so depending on which country you live in, this wall adapter is gonna look different. And now, onto the device itself. This phone has a 6.5-inch PLS IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 82.1%. We got a water drop notch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 8 megapixels. Right now, I do have the brightness at 100%, and despite being a 720p display, I think it looks really good. The phone itself has a sleek, modern design, so even though the phone is on the larger side as far as the display goes, it's not too bulky, so it's not going to be uncomfortable to hold in your hand or to carry in your pocket. The bezels are definitely not the thinnest bezels I've seen, but in the context of this phone's design, it really doesn't look too bad. The back is made of a harder material with a really interesting texture to it, and it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. For storage, this phone has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. Now keep in mind, once again, this specific phone in my hand is the international variant. The US variant actually only has 32 gigabytes, so definitely keep that in mind. That being said, for this specific model, 64 gigabytes of internal storage is really good. For the average user, that's basically all you're gonna need. You'll be able to put plenty of apps on the phone, and if you have lots of photos and videos, you can always put that on a microSD card as well. Now, if you're more of a power user, you will have to be a little careful and be more mindful and strategic of where you place which items. For example, you could put all your apps on the phone itself, and then all your photos and videos on a microSD card and make it work. But if you are one of those super power users who goes through a lot of space really quickly, then you might want to look at a phone that has 128 gigabytes instead. But for everyone else, 64 is going to be a real good amount. Now, if you have the US model of this phone that only gets 32 gigabytes, then if you do more normal things with your phone, you should be fine as long as you're careful. Now, there's no wireless charging on this phone, but there is a fingerprint scanner right here on the power key, which is one of the best spots for it. You're most likely going to be touching this button to wake the phone up anyway, and being able to wake up the display and unlock the phone all in one move is really nice and convenient. We're going to give the fingerprint scanner a try. There we go. One more time. And there we go. So as you can see, that was really fast and responsive. No issues there. If you're looking for a phone that's really convenient to lock and unlock, then this phone is definitely going to be one of the better options. In addition to the fingerprint scanner, you also get face unlock with this phone, so you have even more options. So we got a quad camera setup here on the back with a 48 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, so it's a really good setup. Here's a photo taken with the rear camera of this phone. As you can see, this photo is really high quality. The colors look really nice, and the lighting is really good as well. And overall, especially for a phone in this price range, the image quality is super impressive. So whether you're a more casual user of the camera, or if you like to use your phone often to take high quality pictures for something like social media or maybe a website or something like that, this phone's gonna fit your needs either way. This is a photo taken with the ultra wide camera. Now, it's not bad. There is a little bit of distortion and blurriness around the edges which does happen a lot with ultra-wide cameras, especially in the mid-range phones, but at the same time, it's still decent and it still works. All the same, I am glad this phone at least has an ultra-wide camera, whereas a lot of phones in this price range, like the Motorola Moto G Power 2021 for example, don't even have an ultra-wide camera at all. So there is that. But if you're looking to take super professional looking, really high quality ultra-wide photos, then you might want to look at other devices. But that being said, although the ultra-wide camera might not be the highest quality in the game, this phone has a really good rear camera. So if you like to take more normal pictures, like using portrait mode or just taking regular photos with the rear camera, this phone is going to be a really good one. For video, this phone can shoot in video quality up to 1080p in the rear and front cameras. Nothing too impressive. I would say if you're doing videos for Snapchat or something where the quality doesn't really matter, then this phone is going to be fine for that. But if you want more professional videos for something where the expectation is a little bit higher, then you might want to look at a different device, because the videos on this phone, while being far from the worst, aren't really what you might consider high quality. Internally, this phone gets 4 GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio P35 processor. Again, there is a difference here between the international and US models. This specific phone is the international variant that gets 4 GB of RAM. The US variant has the same processor, but it only gets 3 GB of RAM and not 4. It's not a huge deal, but definitely keep that in mind if you have or are planning to get the US model. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 169 and a multi-core score of 965. So while it's not bad, there are plenty of phones in this price range that are a lot more powerful. So if you're looking for a phone to do basic activities with, like sending text messages, making calls, maybe a little web browsing and social media, this phone should be fine. But if you're looking for something with a little bit more processing power, even in this price range, there are lots of options out there that are going to be better than this. The battery of this phone is a real good strong point with a 5000 milliamp hour battery that supports 15 watt fast charging. There are very few phones, if any, that are better than this one in that department. This phone not only has a lot more life per charge than something like, say, an iPhone 12 that has a 2815 milliamp hour battery, but it also gets more longevity down the road. All batteries wear out over time, but with this phone, since it has such a large battery, as the battery is degrading, you're not going to notice it nearly as much as, say, an iPhone 12. Its battery is almost 50% smaller. So if you like to get one phone and keep it for as long as you possibly can, this is going to be a good strength. Also, being able to support fast charging is good as well. With fast charging, you'll be able to charge your phone a lot more in a shorter period of time. So if you have a more active mobile lifestyle where you don't always have a lot of time to wait for your phone to charge during the day, this is going to be a good advantage. So now that we've gone over some of the specs of this phone, let's take a closer look at the hardware. On the left side here, this phone has a slot for the SIM card and the micro SD card. On the right side, we have our volume keys and the power key that also doubles as a fingerprint scanner. Up top, there's a noise canceling microphone. And on the bottom, there's a 3.5mm headphone jack, the microphone, a USB-C charging port, and the speaker. On the back here, we have the quad camera setup and our flash. There's also a Samsung logo right here on the bottom. The back has a really interesting texture, and it doesn't pick up fingerprints at all. Overall, the materials of this phone, while not feeling super high-end, don't feel cheap at all, and I would say it feels really durable. Now, in conclusion, my final thoughts about the Samsung Galaxy A12. This phone is really reliable, it looks nice, feels sturdy, and doesn't feel cheap, and it has some really nice features, like a really high quality rear camera, a large battery that can support fast charging, and a large screen that's going to be good for content consumption activities, like streaming videos and reading. That being said, there are a few things about this phone that I do think could be better. The main thing really is the processor. In and of itself, the processor isn't really bad, but in comparison to a lot of the other phones on the market, like for example, the Motorola Moto G Power 2021, is in almost the exact same price range as this phone, and it has quite a bit more processing power. And there are several others too that have much better processors but really similar features to this phone. That being said, I do think this phone provides a lot of value, and if processing power isn't that much of a concern for you, then that's not going to be that important anyway. If you're looking for a phone with a decently large screen for content consumption, one that looks nice and is really sturdy, has a large battery, and can take really good pictures, then the Samsung Galaxy A12 is still going to be a really good option. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.